You currently locked in a D Porch podcast. It's your boy, B Jones, aka Bolo, and you know when I'm pulling up to the porch, I can't pull up without my dog.
What's going on, y'all? It's your boy, Big Smitty, aka D Nice, and you heard what Bolo just said. This is the porch. Welcome. What's going on, my guy? How you doing?
You know how I start the show. 10 toes down. God is good. Can't get on here without thanking the man above, bro. But I'm good, bro. I made it through Disneyland. I'm here.
You made it back,
in
man.
one piece.
How was it? Like, I know obviously we got a very special guest, and I cannot wait to introduce her and bring her in. But real quick, you got to give me like an overview on how Disney was, man.
Quick 30 seconds, y'all. It was fun. It was tiring. It was exhausting, but it was one of the best things in the world, y'all. Like, see my kids happy, like to just be in that magical place. Never been there before. So just from walking, sweating, but just seeing the character interactions, riding the rides, the treats and the food, you know what I mean? Just the good people, the good energy. It's a good time. So I now know why they call it a magical place. So it was overall a good trip.
I love to hear that, man. I saw some of the pictures and videos that you and wifey posted throughout the week, and I was definitely, a little jealous, man. I never had my chance to go to Disney as a child, so it's definitely still on my bucket list. So hopefully one of these days I can make that happen.
Got to get there, bro.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. But like we tell you, Porch family, man, if you're watching on Caffeine right now, make sure you continue to share the stream, drop in your props, because this is going to be a great, great episode. We got a very special guest on today's show. One of the most successful and hardworking people, in my opinion, we've ever had on the porch. He has an undergrad in psychology, a minor in neuroscience, a master's in specializing in children and adolescent counseling and sex education. She's a doctor, a certified sex therapist, and the founder of Mind Body Sex. She does it all, y'all. The one and only Dr. Canary. Welcome to the porch.
Thank you, guys. For having me. That was a great introduction. That's one of the best introductions I've ever gotten. You really did your research.
That's what we do on the porch, man. We like to show love, and you're somebody who definitely deserves it. So we appreciate you for being on here. How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling good. I'm not gonna lie. It's a 3-hour time difference, and I'm usually in the bed, like winding down, watching Netflix around this time. So I'm a little tired. I had a long day of seeing patients and clients, but I feel good. I'm excited for the opportunity to be here. You guys are amazing. You have an amazing podcast with lots of substance, which we need.
Yes, we appreciate that. Absolutely.
Thank you for staying up a little late for us, and we're gonna bring the energy up so we be prepared to wake up a little bit as we get going. So, So let's get straight to it, man. Our first segment is our porch news. Bolo, I know we got some interesting topics, I would say, from this week. So without further ado, man, what do we have in porch news to get us started?
Okay, porch family, get into this. A 31-year-old Colorado woman who admits to having sex with a 13-year-old is currently avoiding jail time with a new plea deal in Colorado. So she will be required to register as a sex offender, and the judge can sentence her up to 10 years to life on a sex offender supervised probation and avoid jail time. Now, she currently did have the baby, and she will be avoiding jail time. Now, obviously, let's start off with Dr. Canary. Like, what do we think about that? Like, somebody 31 versus somebody 13 avoiding jail time, and she just had a baby with a 13-year-old boy.
I haven't heard about this story, but in this day and age, unfortunately, this is becoming more prevalent. It's still, you don't see a lot of women though. It's usually men, and I feel like the issue with this is it's setting a precedent, because if it had been a male, he definitely would have been thrown under the jail cell. 100%. So this 31-year-old, unless she has some sort of condition, so I mean, we don't know all the details, but unless she has some sort of condition, that I'm very curious to see why she's not getting jail time.
Facts. Yeah. I'm right there with you.
Because that's rape. That's rape.
Exactly. 13 years old. I can just imagine, what I was doing, how I was thinking at 13, and you 31. So a lot more than I do. So, I can definitely say that young man was taken advantage of in that situation.
Absolutely. And she got pregnant.
Right. That's the thing. So like this kid, and I think I saw like a note from the victim's mother, just basically saying that, like, because she was pissed too, obviously, that the woman wasn't getting any jail time. She's like, man, like, my son has to now, like, you basically stripped him of his childhood in a sense, right? He has to learn how to be a man and a father at 13 years old. You know 13. What I'm saying? And it's like, man, the fact, like, I'm trying to put myself in a position of being a parent, or, you know what I'm saying? And like just hearing my child or your little brother, any of us can like personalize it, right? And put yourself in that situation and just think of like, wow, like, how would you feel? So when I saw that, bro, and like you said, doctor, like, we don't have all the specific details, so I don't want to, you know, get too deep into it, but just at the surface level, seeing that, you know, seeing that note, seeing that clip, and just like, wow, no jail time. And you hit the nail right on the head. If it was vice versa, if it was a man and a 13-year-old girl, without a shadow of doubt, no question, they be in jail. So it is like a double standard there that I think people should pay attention to.
Absolutely. And I just want to note that for parents out there, this is why sex education is so important. This is why speaking to your children about predators, even males, I think a lot of times we don't think about speaking to our male population or our teenagers that are males because we're so focused on the females. Right. But males can be looked at after as well, like as someone that is a sexual being. So you want to be very careful with that as a parent and make sure that you realize that there are women and men that are predators that are looking to have sexual affairs and things like that with your child. So it's very important to pay attention to your males just as much as you pay attention to females.
That's a fact, because I think in a lot of situations, people almost glorify a young man, you know what I'm saying, getting a chance to have sex with an older woman, you know what I mean? So it always gets looked at in that light, you know what I mean? So that's
That's definitely true, man. Hopefully they're able to, you know, figure that out, and the family of the victim, the mother, the young man himself can find some type of, you know, peace and be able to move forward, you know, in the best way possible. So definitely prayers up for that situation. Bolo, what we got next though in the Porch News?
Okay, we're going to turn the heat up a little bit, Porch family. All right, so Michael B. Jordan, obviously, most recently called out a reporter on the red carpet of Creed who supposedly called him corny because they went to high school together, right? So let's fast forward, right? Now women are in a situation where they are calling him corny because they find him as non-edgy and responsible. So, Dr. Canary, this is my question for you. Why are women so attracted to the men who treat them wrong versus the men who could potentially do them right?
Uh-oh.
You want my personal opinion or my professional opinion?
We want them both.
We want them both.
I'll intertwine them both. So professionally, what I typically see is when you grow up in a certain environment, a lot of the times, a lot of people have grew up in, let's say, like urban communities, and we have this kind of image in our head of what's cool. You know, Lil Wayne was considered cool. Jay-Z is considered cool. They sold drugs. They, you know, the type of music that they have. Future, you know, is considered cool because they has a swag about him. But a lot of times that typically is a reflection of that woman and her views on, and also her past relationships. Because I don't think Michael B. Jordan is corny, right?
Right.
Like, I see him as just someone that's very poised. He's into his career. He's intelligent. He speaks well. He's dominating the movies right now. Right. So it's like, you have to figure out within yourself, like, why do you see someone like that that doesn't have a ton of baby mamas, you know, that's not out here acting wild or crazy from what we see, at least, why you would label that corny. So I feel like a lot of women, they want the cool guy like Future, and they say like Russell Wilson. That was another one that they say was really corny. But then at the same time, you're asking Sierra for her prayer, right? So deep down, you really want a man that's going to make you feel secure, that's not going to be out here having a ton of kids on you, that's not going to be cheating on you, and more importantly, that has some sort of emotional intelligence, right?
Right.
So I think that a lot of times with women, we're going based off of what they see on social media and what's labeled to be cool from whatever they used to date. Because you have women that say, oh, I'm into drug dealers, I like this type of guy, they're getting money. Well, you're 9 to 5, you're doctors, you're lawyers, you're engineers. There's so many other different types of men that are getting money. So a lot of times you have to look at those caliber of women. And that's what I boil it down to, is like, if you truly want a good man, then you have to get out of this whole phase of like, this is corny and this is not corny.
Talk to him.
Right. Because I feel like, and let me jump in real quick. I feel like women want it all. They want the cool guy who's edgy, a little dangerous.
Right.
But at the same time, they want that same guy to also be loyal, faithful, provide, protect, and just, you know what I'm saying? It's like you want the full pack. And I get it. We're, as human beings, we all want everything. I mean, men, we want the woman that got the banging body and beautiful smile, but she's gonna cater to you, and you know what I'm saying. So we both. It's not just one sided here, but I do think it's interesting though, Bolo, where it's like, yeah, like there's nothing wrong. Again, I start looking in. There's nothing wrong with quote unquote being corny, so to speak, right? Again, I don't even think it is corny, but the people that get labeled as corny are typically like decent men. You know what I'm saying? People who are
the good guy.
Yeah, good guy. Basically, it's the good guy. Exactly. So
facts. And it's funny you say that, just because if you think about elementary school, like I'm thinking about, like I grew up in Chicago, right? So when I'm thinking about my elementary school, some of the most popular kids were the kids who used to get in fights all the time
and get in trouble.
Like they would get the girls, you know what I mean? Whenever they came back, whatever, and girls would flock to them because they were the ones really getting in trouble and stirring the pot, and then now you fast forward, I think like you said, Doc, that's like the same situation they being put in as an adults, is like, this is what they used to and this is what they're accustomed to. Like, the people who are a little rough around the edges, the people who are always getting in trouble, it kind of gets them going. So
yeah, I mean, when I was in high school, I thought that was cool too. I'm not gonna lie, even though I never actually even dated those type of guys. Like my boyfriend in high school was super duper quiet, but he was on the football team, so that automatically made him cool. But he was just like what women nowadays might consider a cornball, because he wasn't, had a ton of women. He wasn't rocking the latest Jordans. So I think that has to do with self and your own journey of where you're at. And if you're truly looking to get married and settle down, that's not everybody's goal in life. So if you want to go through multiple relationships and wait for that quote unquote cool guy to settle down, because if we look at all the cool men, except for Jay-Z, who has changed, he's not the same Jay-Z we grew up with, Jigga Man. But, Lil Wayne, Future, they're all still out here doing the same stuff.
Living a free life.
Man, that's a good point, man. Like you said, everybody, one thing I heard, everybody's not looking for marriage, Bolo. And that's a good point. That's a good point. Like, I think we grow up and you kind of conditioned to think like, okay,
automatically.
You go to school, you graduate high school, you go to college, you get your degree, you get married, you have kids, boom, boom, boom. But like, nah, everybody's not looking for that. Some people are looking to, single, mingle, and kind of do their thing. Or women might be looking for the guy who's making the high amount of money, so where they can kind of fund a certain lifestyle. Like everybody has their own little thing. So I guess it just depends on what you're looking for. So
there you go. Yep, that's
some good Porch news, Bolo, to get the show started, man. I definitely want to hear from our Porch family in the comments. Whether you're listening through audio or watching on Caffeine, we want to hear y'all opinions on these Porch news for sure, man. So, but we do have to transition to hearing more about our special guest, Dr. Canary. You have an amazing, I feel like, just story of just hustle and determination. So, want to get started this way. Who is Dr. Canary?
So Dr. Canary, besides being a psychiatrist and a certified sex therapist, like you mentioned, I'm an advocate for mental health. I'm really big into MMA and boxing. I do that in my spare time. I love traveling. I've been to about 32 countries now, and I'm a foodie connoisseur. I love to eat all day, every day. In fact, I'm hungry right now. So if I wasn't on this show, I'd probably be eating right before.
I feel the same way, Doc. I feel the exact same way.
I'm hungry as hell right now.
Man,
right. And I'm founder of Mind Body Sex, which is where I have intertwined my two passions, sex therapy and psychiatry, because I love both of those, and mental health and sexual health is very much intertwined.
I love it.
I love that.
No, for sure. So, no, go ahead, Bolo.
No, I was gonna say, so like being a doctor, right? Especially when you think about, Black kids growing up, you go to, kindergarten, elementary school, like, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? And everybody says, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a nurse, right? And not everybody makes that happen, right? So, a lot of people are living through you now because you actually accomplished being a doctor. Did you always know growing up that you would be a doctor?
The funny thing, no, I wasn't the straight A student growing up. I didn't care anything about being a doctor growing up. My mom said when I was really, really little, like 4, that I wanted to be a doctor. But I remember saying I wanted to be like a Ninja Turtle or something, like off the wall. I was like obsessed with Ninja Turtles and ninjas in general. So I remember in high school, though, really getting into mental health because a lot of the members in my family deal with mental health, from bipolar disorder to extreme depression and anxiety. So I wanted to be a school counselor. In high school, I remember distinctly saying I wanted to be either a school counselor, FBI agent, or FBI or CIA. And so it wasn't until when I was getting my master's, actually, that I was working in a psychiatric institution with children and adolescents, that I realized there's not a lot of Black physicians. Like, all the doctors in the facility that I worked in were males, and they were Indian or Asian. And my mentor at the time was an Indian man, and he was like, "You're really good at this. You should think about going to medical school." And I'm like, I don't know. My GPA in undergraduate was like, it was moderate to decent. My master's was awesome. I got like magna cum laude, but I just didn't really feel like I would fit in. I felt like that imposter syndrome. So I just applied, honestly, on a whim. I took some classes. I was living in North Carolina at the time, in Charlotte. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try. What does it hurt? If I don't get in, and I didn't think I was going to get in, I was like, if I don't get in, at least I said I tried. And I got in, and I went, and it's the best decision that I made, honestly.
That's beautiful.
That's crazy. That's crazy, man. And I want to talk about, obviously you mentioned a couple of times here about just, being a mental health advocate and having people in your family who deal with different forms and variations of it. Just talk about, kind of working in that field and dealing with different patients. What's some of the, I guess, the most issues you see within the Black community, just from your own experiences and things that you often see?
Well, one, I want to say I'm really happy and excited about where mental health, the journey, is going in the Black community, because I hear more rappers mentioning, mental health. You have Meek Mills, you have my friend Marcus that's out in LA, him and his wife Brooke. They talk about mental health on their platform. You have Drake talking about mental health, Burna Boy. So I think that it's amazing that the industry in Hollywood, it's more intertwined now. And I actually did a video about Creed 3 because they talk a lot about mental health in Creed 3. And so one thing that I've realized, just in the Black community, is how taboo, I want to say it once was, because it's starting to slowly drift to the other side, but it's still taboo. And I feel like, especially for Black males, creating a safe space for you all to come and speak and feel like, that the world is not against you and that you have people on your team. Because I feel like a lot of African Americans, we go through so much, right? Black people in general, we go through a lot in America. So we're fighting the world, we're fighting our colleagues, we're dealing with, microaggressions at work, we're dealing with, hopefully you're not dealing with any of that at home. Like, at home can be your safe space. But then turmoil does happen in relationships sometimes, even if it's not something, racist or anything like that, but it's just being in a relationship takes a lot of work and it takes a lot out of you. So I feel like with, the mental health journey, it's so important to be welcoming to people and be like, you know what, therapy is great. It's a collaborative effort. I think a lot of people feel like they go to one therapist and they tell me all the time, oh, it wasn't quite what I was expecting. But I tell people all the time, therapy is like choosing a restaurant. Like, you're going to have to choose different therapists or go to different therapists to see which one is a good fit for you. Because it's not a one fit all type of atmosphere. Like, there's going to be some therapists that specialize in certain things, just like there's some physicians that specialize in certain things. And even as far as like building that bond with your therapist, it's not always going to be the same.
Damn, that's real. Now, I have a question about just therapy in general. So obviously you mentioned it's like a restaurant, right? People will try different things, and sometimes, that wrong therapist can just turn somebody completely off, and they may not turn back, right? So when we're talking about therapy, it's a collaboration, right? You put out, you get out what you put into it. But Absolutely. Would you say therapy is more of a like, okay, let me get this off my chest to make me feel better, or is it more so of them receiving the information from the therapist?
That's a really good question. I've actually never been asked that question. And what I'll say is if your therapist is doing majority of the talking, you might need a different therapist.
Mm.
It shouldn't just be about you venting because it's going to be a give and take, but the most important thing I feel like is that you feel like not only can you vent, but you're receiving strategies. Because that's the you can vent to your friends, right? You
Right.
can vent to your wife or your girlfriend, your partner, whomever. So that's the difference between therapy is you're not just coming there to vent, you're coming there to leave with strategies. And we're not supposed to tell you how to live your life. I'm not here to say, oh, this is right or this is wrong. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to tell you, okay, you know what? You're thinking about this decision or you're not sure which path to go down. Let me provide you with this information. Let's work on a plan together of how we can build communication, comprehension. I have clients in polyamorous relationships that I deal with that want to make sure that within their polyamorous community that they're effectively making sure that they're pleasing their partner, whether that's emotionally, sexually, spiritually. So you're supposed to not only be able to vent to your therapist, but you're also there to create like a plan of action.
Got you.
Whatever
That
your
makes
goal
sense.
is.
I love that. Yeah, and I do feel like there is like a big misconception, especially in the Black community, because again, growing up, being real, a lot of us we never talked about going to therapy or having a therapist, especially as a Black man. Unfortunately, for so long, and as you mentioned, doctor, it is changing now, but for so long, it was almost looked at as like a weakness, like, oh, you got a therapist, or you got to go. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad that that's changing. But I really do feel like that being able to have that shift is very important within our culture and in our community. And one thing I wanted to ask you too, doctor, is I've read that you've worked with murderers as clients. You have people who deal with PTSD. I've seen a lot of you have a lot of different clients, right? How are you personally able to I guess just balance your own mindset? I feel like that's heavy, you know what I'm saying, to deal with everyone else's problems every single day, every single week. At the end of a long day, how are you able to just kind of like, all right, decompress?
Well, they say you have to be a little bit crazy to be a psychiatrist. And
is that true, Doc? I mean, are you crazy or what?
Like, you got to be a little off in the head. No, I'm just kidding. No, I really think that's true though. But, for me, I have such a strong family unit. My parents, just my faith. And then I take a lot of vacations. I'm always on vacation. In fact, it's time for a vacation right around now because it's been a couple months. Okay. But yeah, usually like every 3 months I take a vacation. But more importantly, what I had to realize and learn, like I used to take vacations to get away from the problems I had. But then once I would come back to work, home, wherever, the problems would still be there. So one of the things that I've learned to do is unplug. And when I say unplug, not just unplug from social media, but literally like unplug mentally, where I take days where I do absolutely nothing at all. If that's just laying on my couch, if that's just being outside at the park, like I wipe out my entire schedule and I just sit with myself. Meditation is a huge part. I feel like that's what really keeps me sane a lot of the times is I meditate. And I'm not the type that can completely clear my mind. Like my mind is about a minute, but I'll sit with my thoughts and I'll think about things and I'll work through things mentally. And then a lot of times I have to be upfront and honest about how I'm feeling and not being fake about it. Whether that's not dealing with certain people, whether that's friends or family. I think a lot of times we put on a facade. And so you have to be careful when you're putting on a facade for yourself and say, you know what, I don't want to deal with this today. I don't want to take any phone calls, which is typically after work. That's how I am. I don't take any phone calls for like an hour. I allow myself to decompress. I allow myself to sit with whatever emotions or energies I'm feeling, because in therapy, it is energy exchange, right? So when I'm dealing with those people that have murdered somebody, allegedly, or they really have, a lot of times that's energy that's being exchanged, whether that's positive, most of the time it's negative. So I have to always be mindful of that. And so the things that have worked for me is like really digging deep into self-care, but not just self-care in the sense of, oh, I'm gonna catch a flight or I'm gonna go out to eat, but sitting alone, meditating, allowing myself to think about. Journaling is also something that I love doing, writing everything down, because a lot of times with our minds, it's so much stimulation. We're almost overly stimulated as a population. So it's easy to write things down and kind of get your ideas and thoughts out.
Absolutely. And you know, it's interesting just because I was reading something where it says like sometimes we have the misconception of like we got to work, grind, where, you know, team no sleep, and you know, we continue to get after it and get after it. But in all reality, like you really need your rest, you know, in order to be your best self. You need to decompress and let go to be able to provide, you know, the best you. So I think that's real helpful for our listeners to understand that, because obviously we're grinding, we're in that work mode, and we think we got to work 24/7, you know, and the brain doesn't, you know, cut off. But being able to unwind, unplug for, you know, maybe a day or so to reconnect, re-energize, and then get back to it, you know, you'll find that you're, you know, more, you know, in tune, you know, if you do take a break, you know, now and then. So
absolutely. Have you guys been in therapy?
I have not.
I haven't yet.
I have not.
Yeah, but it's something that I'm definitely, like I said, just being, again, the last 2 years, just mental health, learning more about mental health and the importance of it is something that I'm definitely, you know, leaning towards just going into. Now, what type of therapy? I don't know. There's different forms, and I was doing sex therapy, relationship therapy. Do I need personal? Like, I probably could use all of them, if I'm being honest. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, not yet. But it's something I'm definitely interested in. That's what part of the reason why we want to have you on, to just kind of pick your brain and get more education on it. So,
and that's another question I had too, is like, what if somebody just think nothing is wrong? Like, could you give us insight to like people who go to counseling as like more preventative maintenance?
Ooh.
It really is. That exactly what you just said. It's just preventative maintenance. That's exactly how you should look at it. I even have a therapist. I call her my grand psychologist, because there is a difference between a mental health counselor, a psychologist, and a psychiatrist. And I'll break that down really quickly. So a lot of people, when they DM me, they're like, "Hey, I need a psychiatrist," and I'm like, "Do you need medication?" So psychiatrist is kind of like at the top of the totem pole, because we went to medical school, we have a medical degree, we prescribe medication. If you're not really interested in medication, I don't recommend going to a psychiatrist, because we're expensive. I'm not gonna lie. We anywhere, the cheapest psychiatrist I might know of might charge $100 an hour. And a lot of times they're not, you have to have really good insurance. A lot of psychiatrists don't accept insurance anymore. So you're paying cash. And so I always say, look at a psychologist or mental health counselor. It's easier as far as getting your insurance company to bill with that. Typically, their prices are decent. And if you're not needing medication, you don't need to come to a psychiatrist. You can go to a psychologist or a mental health counselor, right? And so, wait, what was the question? I just totally forgot what your question was.
No,
I was about to go off on a totally different
that happened to me like 2 minutes ago.
No,
I was like,
don't mind me. I'm tired.
No, I'll go. No, we were just talking about like preventative maintenance. Like if somebody feels like they're good, like, you know, what would still make them want to go to, you know, counseling
session. Yep.
Okay, thank you, because that's what I was talking about. I was about to go off on something totally different. But no, so I actually see a therapist, right? And I always tell my clients, life itself is trauma. Even if you haven't had anything extreme, I think people think that they have to have something extreme happen to them. You don't. I've had a great life, parents still married, relationships great. But what I realized is life itself is stressful. My job is stressful, talking to people all day. There's a lot that you just go through that you need to speak to somebody about. So every month I go see a therapist and I talk to her, and we work through different things that I want to work on in life, whether it's personal goals or relationship goals. And so one of the things I always like to tell my clients is even if you feel like life is great for you, go speak to somebody, because a lot of times there's so much in our community that we're suppressing that we have to deal with. And we're constantly saying, oh, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. And then it's showing up in other ways, whether that's your skin is breaking out, you're overweight, or you're arguing with your partner every single day, or your kids are, you know, are not disciplined, whatever the case may be. There's always something, an underlying issue where it's showing.
Damn, that's real.
That's real,
that's
man.
real.
So yeah, like you said, even if life is going good, man, you can still go get some counseling. Good, you know what I mean? Preventive maintenance. I love
Absolutely.
that.
And nobody's perfect. That's the thing. We like to
Right.
think that we walk with Jesus, but we're not perfect.
Let them know, Doc. Let them know. Yeah, no, I love it, man. I think what you're doing is I mean, I know what you're doing is very important. It's huge, and you're truly healing people, man. Which I think is amazing. And I want to shift gears to another side of your practice, which is the sex therapy side, right? Kind of explain to us what led you into becoming a sex therapist. Like, I guess how did that interest? Where did that interest come from?
So I was a sex therapist first, and it kind of fell into my lap. I was like 22, 23 at the time, getting a master's. And I originally, like I said, wanted to do school counseling, family and marriage counseling. So I was in my internship for family and marriage counseling. It's only like a 2-year program, and I was in my second year. And I remember I was dealing with this couple, constant bickering and arguing. And one day I just said, y'all should just get a divorce.
Mm.
And that's like a big no when you're doing family counseling. Like, you're supposed to be bringing people together and not trying to tear them apart.
Right.
But in this situation, I really felt like they needed to get a divorce. So my advisor at the time, he was like, you know what? I don't know if family and marriage counseling is for you. Like, he was like, maybe we should shift gears and try other counseling therapies or whatever. And so other specialties. And so I did this presentation on human sexuality, and it just blew him away.
Mm.
And I talked about, I can't remember what I talked about, but it was something dealing with the Black community and women's sensuality and sexuality. And he was like, you know what? Have you ever thought about sex therapy? And I was like, what is that? Because I was only 22 at the time. I had no clue what that was.
Right.
And he had a sister in California that did sex therapy, and he put me in contact with her. And once she told me how deep sex therapy was, because I think when people hear sex therapy, they just hear sex.
Right.
And they're just thinking about Karma Sutra, different positions, me teaching them how to ride it. But it's so much deeper than that. That's the fun part, yes.
Right.
But she really spoke to me about the mental component. And that's what attracted me to sex therapy, because once again, I didn't see a lot of Black women that were sex therapists. It's really a lot of older Caucasian women that are in this field, surprisingly.
Mm.
And so I started doing my research, and I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. So it just kind of fell into my lap. I didn't practice for a long time because I ended up going to medical school. And so when I finished everything in 2018, I was like, okay, I'm going to now combine my two passions. And that's how Mind, Body, Sex came along, because I was like, mental health and sexual health are very much intertwined. You can't have good sex if you are not mentally present. If you're fighting different battles, the sex is going to be different. And I'm not going to get into that whole, but energy and synergy that you're feeling, and how people feel drained after they have sex, or some people cry after they have sex. So that is honestly why I got into it.
Damn.
Boy,
We getting deep already.
She dropping gems, boy.
Already.
I almost started. She said, if your mind ain't right, the sex ain't gonna be right.
Damn.
I think
That's
big for the couples,
real.
for real. Yeah, for sure.
Now, does somebody have to be in sex therapy? Do you have to be like sexually in tune with yourself? Like, how do you get to the point of like, okay, I want to teach people the different levels of sex and what go into it? Like, how does one get to, themselves and be like, okay, I'm at a point where I feel good about my body, my sexual, self, that I can actually teach this?
You know what? I'm gonna be honest. I have met some sex therapists, because I did mention how it's a lot of older Caucasian women, right? And I feel like some of them were great coaches and teachers, but just because you're a great coach and teacher doesn't mean you're a good player, right?
Ooh,
damn, that's real.
That's a bar. That's a bar.
So that is what I feel about that. Now, personally,
wow,
I feel that I've done a lot of work, inner work, on myself, that I'm at a different place now. That's why I feel like I'm good at teaching women and even men. So I have a lot of men that come to me. They're like, I want to please my wife. I do like a whole education course on anatomy and all types of stuff. But I think that when you really like this field and you get into it, and anything that you do in life, when you're passionate about it, you do a lot of research, you take courses. So my mentor, who is one of like the #1 sex therapist, like, I want to say in the world, but he's just amazing. He does a lot of sex therapy with celebrities. And so he's actually brought me in, and we've done things in London. And So pretty much I've been able to be with my colleagues that have more knowledge than me. And I'm able to take that knowledge, test it out, give it to some of my clients, let them test it out and see if it works. Because everybody's a little bit different, right? Just because one trick or something works for one individual does not mean that it's going to work for the other individual.
Facts.
So being experimental is so important in sex.
That's real. That's real. And you know what? I'm glad you said that. So myself, I'm married. My guy Bolo, he's married as well. And we got a lot of couples and people who are looking to be in relationships who are, appreciate that, who are tuning in. So I want to ask you this. How important is sex in a relationship for a healthy relationship?
Oh, it should be top 5. Easy.
Break it down to us, Doc. Break it down to us.
I don't like to put because to me, communication and comprehension are always going to be very, if those are not aligned, everything else is not going to fall into place, right? Because when we hear about the divorce rate, we have an extremely high divorce rate here in the US. Why? It's always money, infidelity, he wasn't listening to me, comprehension, oh, she doesn't understand where I'm coming from, communication, lack of sex. Always one of those 5. It's always interchangeable. So I think sex is very important, especially when you're having good sex. It can honestly tie things and bring people in together, especially you guys that you have children. Sex changes after you have kids because our bodies change, our hormones change as a woman. You're tired, you're running after kids all day. It's harder to find time to have sex. So I always talk to my couples, schedule sex. I know it doesn't sound that exciting, but you need to still have it, right? Because there's a lot of endorphins and dopamines, just amazing things that your body is releasing when you have sex. It's a stress reliever. It can help with headaches. You live longer. So it's just so many different things, health benefits to it. So I tell couples all the time, schedule it if you have to. Do it in unique and different places, especially when you have children. You're trying to find time where the kids are not around, sneak off in the bathroom, wherever, And so it's important to prioritize that.
Damn, that's real.
She said you live longer, Bolo. I want to make sure we our followers heard that. So hey, if you need one good reason why you should be having some more sex, you're gonna extend your life. So I just want to throw that out there.
How long have you guys been married?
So I am going on 5 years in June.
Congratulations.
And I'm going on 3 years in May.
Congratulations. That's beautiful.
I don't have any kids. I don't have any kids yet. I appreciate that. I don't have any kids yet, but it's in our future plans for sure. But right now, my wife, she's like you, doctor, where she loves traveling. She's like, I kind of want to just kind of maximize my one-on-one time with you selfishly, which I'm all on board for it.
Enjoy it. I think that's a great way to do it.
It's a fact.
For sure.
Now, obviously, I got 2 kids, but is there such thing as like too much sex though? Like, can sex throw off the relationship, or is it always positive?
Of course, there's always a negative and a positive to everything. I think it can get negative when you start having a sex addiction and it's taking over your life, and that's all you're thinking about, and you can't focus on work. Then that is more of an issue, right? But I think honestly, in the US, that's not really a problem. It shows that people in their 30s are having less sex than they did, in their 20s. And we're having less sex than our parents did. That's what research is currently showing. Yeah, we are.
What's wrong? Hey, we lacking a little bit. What we
doing? It's really, really crazy. So yeah, there's been several articles that say that like our generation, we're not having as much sex. And I think a lot of it, not only does it have to do with social media, right? And getting gratification from that, because social media is filled with sex, right? You have girls twerking, you have women doing all sorts of things on there. You got OnlyFans, you have so many different things. But I think a lot of it too is a disconnect, right? Between men and women. And so I feel like nowadays, not only are men saying, you know what, I'm just not gonna be out here sleeping with anybody, but then you have women also saying the same thing. Like, I don't want to just sleep with anybody, which is great. But in a relationship, when you're supposed to be forming that bond with a person, that's where the issue comes about. Because it's like, okay, if it's too much sex, some women do feel like their husbands or their partners, like he wants it all the time, every single day. I've heard women say that. And then men feel like they're not getting enough, then a conversation needs to be had, right? That's where that compromise and that communication comes in. So if you have a high libido and I have a low libido, we want to make sure as a woman, okay, my libido is low. Am I eating? Nutrition is a huge part of your sex life. What are you eating? There's a lot of foods. Okra is amazing for lubricating the vagina. You have maca root, which is great for women to take. You have so many different things that you can take to get your libido back where it needs to be? Or is it really that you're just not interested in having sex with your husband because he doesn't please you?
Damn, that's real.
Ooh, no, that's a whole nother cup of coffee right there. Like
right.
Damn.
Now,
yeah, that's a whole other topic, but
right.
Yeah, so it gets complicated.
Yeah, but no, I'm glad. It's funny because that was gonna be like literally one of my next questions, asking you about that. Just like because I know there's different couples who deal with this, and I've heard conversations. I got friends who talked about it before, where one person has a high sex drive, the other one has a lower sex drive, and it starts to cause complications. You know what I'm saying? And figuring out like how do you figure that out? It's like on the one end, the person with the high sex drive, you know, they want what they want. They don't want to compromise what they want. But on the other side, it's like, well, like, if I just don't want it, then I should. I'm not a bad person because I'm not interested in having sex either. So it's kind of like that weird thing where both sides feel like they're not in the wrong, and they're not in the wrong. It's just a communication thing where it's like, how do we find that middle ground where we're both satisfied?
Man,
and it's tricky. It's really, really tricky to do that because in any relationship you're in, as a woman, as a man, there's going to be a point in time where you just don't feel like having sex. Right. Whether if we just had a baby, especially after women have babies, you know, you have to wait about 6 weeks to have sex. And a lot of times that's a really difficult period for women because we don't feel comfortable in our bodies. And so the men, they're ready after waiting 6 weeks. I get it. Anybody would be ready. But I think if you're in your relationship, if you realize that there's an imbalance, one, you want to make sure medically that there's no issues. That's what I always tell men and women. Because men, such as Black males, high rate of prostate cancer, high rate of cardiac issues, all of that can lead to the lack of a low libido. Erectile dysfunction, you have more men in their 30s having issues with erectile dysfunction, which is crazy. That used to be something in the 50s, in the 30s. Yes.
I'm 29. Let me knock on some.
Keep talking about I'm 29.
I'm just saying, like, I mean, what? I'm just trying to.
Yeah, but you know, alcohol, drugs, and then just the things that we're eating, all the chemicals that's in our food, like we're not taking care of our bodies. We don't know proper nutrition. And so all of that is affecting. So I always tell couples, okay, first let's make sure it's not a medical thing, right? Let's get some blood work done. Let's talk to your primary care physician. Let's make sure it's nothing medical. If you're like, no, it's nothing medical and you're completely healthy, is it a mental block? And this comes from men and women. I've seen men so stressed that they're like, you know what? I don't even want to have sex with my wife. I can't even get it up because I'm so stressed about X, Y, and Z. That's when you come see a sex therapist or a mental health counselor or a psychologist, and we figure out where that mental block is and how can we slowly start to deteriorate that mental block. Or is it just that you guys have totally different libidos and want it at totally different times? And then that's where we help create a schedule. And we help figure out a number, not even a number, but sometimes like more so a schedule to figure out how you guys can both be on the same page. That's when we schedule sex. Okay, we're going to have it Wednesday. We're going to meet in the laundry room. We're going to have it on top of the dryer.
Damn, that's kind of cold though. Hey, Wednesday, 12:29, meet me on the dryer. No excuse, just produce.
Don't be late.
Kind of like that.
Don't be late. We already know what we're doing.
I'm gonna be there early. I'm gonna be there early.
Get straight to it.
I'm gonna be ready.
I
love it. Love it.
Now, Doc, answer me this, right? So you have situations where people have sex with each other that are like kind of attached to each other, where like they feel like they have to build like some type of bond before having sex, and it makes the sex greater. And then you have people who are just physically, sexually attracted to somebody. Like, what weighs more?
Ooh, that's a good question. I've never gotten that question before. You know what? Honestly, it depends on the person, I would say. But I always like to go back to research because I like to read a lot. And I love science and psychology when it's mixed together. So what I will say, though, that if you want to have substantial sex, right? Because it also depends. We live in the day and age where friends with benefits, situationships is rampant. And some people are okay with that. I think there's a deeper meaning if you are okay with that. typically trauma or something has happened in your past relationships where I feel like a lot of women settle for that, but that's a totally different conversation. But what I will say is, if you haven't tried one or the other, you should. And I think, to me, what weighs more and what research shows that weighs more is when you get to know somebody on a deeper spiritual level, having good conversations, dating. That, to me, typically you have better sex.
Got you. Okay.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. You know, so if it's a deeper connection, Bolo, you would assume that it's going to be a little, you know, better sex. Because like you said earlier, Doc, if your mind ain't right, the sex ain't going to be right. So you think if you have a stronger emotional, mental attachment to your partner, you would assume the sex will be a little better. I feel like it all kind of correlates. So,
yeah.
But now,
there's just some people that are terrible in the bedroom. So, you know, I've had couples that, you know, they waited 6 months or whatever time frame they waited, and they were like, "That was kind of whack."
Right.
Dang. That is tough though. You waited 6 months or a year or whatever, and then it wasn't like all that. It's like, damn.
Yeah, that sucks. It does.
That's bad. Now, Doc, is it possible for somebody to have a consistent sex partner with no attachment?
What do you mean consistent?
Like, you know, like just a sex buddy, right? You know how they call it, you know, your F buddy,
okay.
right?
I see what you're saying. So like a situationship.
Yeah, situationship,
Right.
like every now and then, but then no attachments, no feelings or nothing.
It's definitely difficult, I would say, on both parties, especially women, because how we're wired, if you look at like from a biological standpoint, women aren't wired to just give their bodies to anybody, right? And this is the thing, we receive the penis. And if a man ejaculates inside of you, that sperm is there for years. It's there for a really, really long. Yeah, it's there for a really, really long. Yeah, it's there for a long time, and that's why, like, when a new man comes into a woman, and it's getting to the more the holistic side, but when a new man comes into a woman, it's almost like there was a study showing that like the penis is trying to like dig out old sperm, and I don't know how true that is, but it was a really, really interesting scientific study that they were talking about how they feel like that really happens, like the penis is trying to dig out old sperm. But yeah, so.
Wow.
If when you give your body to a man, and that's why I say energy and everything like that is so important, because that man literally, not only does he know how you feel in the inside, but that connection, whether it's toxic or whatever it is going to be on you for a long time. And that's why typically after sex, you either feel energized, you feel drained, you feel fulfilled. You have to tap into the emotions that you're feeling after sex. And a lot of women talk about how they feel like depressed, even men, how they feel like depressed after they have sex. And it's like, yeah, there's a reason for that, right? Because it's energy exchange. And so I feel like when you just have meaningless sex, meaning, well, we have sex whenever we feel like it, a lot of times that's more draining than good.
Interesting. Nah, like that's not. Nah, I never really thought about that, bro. Like for real, like how I feel like right when I'm done. Like how am I actually feeling mentally? How am I
at that moment,
like in that exact moment? You know what I'm saying? Because like, dang, I'm sorry, I'm almost stuck over here, Doc. I'm over here thinking through about how the energy can exchange, and you got somebody with negative energy who you sleeping with. Now that energy is inside of you now, or vice versa. That's kind of deep, man. Porch, how y'all listen in, Porch family?
This is me always like people hate me because I'm always this guy, right? So all right, Doc, I gotta ask you right now. So you said it's more for women because they receive it, right? So it's more for them. So that's why I'm always saying that it's worse for women to cheat than men to cheat.
So I have to disagree with that. And the reason why, I feel like when women cheat for men is more of an ego thing, right? I feel like, yeah, when women cheat on men, I feel like a lot of the reasons why men feel the way they do is because it's an ego thing, more so than anything. But I feel like we can't discount that when women find out that her man has cheated, it emotionally destroys us. So I never want to say that one is worse than the other.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to say that one is worse than the other because I don't feel that way. I feel like even from a psychological standpoint, like You ever seen women when they act crazy after they're like, oh, she started acting crazy as soon as I gave her some good D.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I be hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think I seen on one of your I think you have a your other page, your other Instagram page, and you were talking about I wrote it down here. It was emotional infidelity like versus like sexual infidelity, right? So I just think like the emotional side of infidelity is bigger because it's playing more so to like the mind and like the whole body of like somebody like building another connection with somebody versus a guy. A guy just may just have sex, like how you said, like a guy just can go in and however they feel afterwards is just like them probably just, you know, wanting to, you know, get a nut off or ejaculate, right? Just more physical. But that emotional infidelity almost hits worse than the sexual. I don't know.
This is my thing. Both I think are very devastating.
Yeah.
But I think that you have to think about women. We cannot rationalize just sexual infidelity because for a lot of us, if we're going to cheat, and I can't speak for all women, I'm just speaking for what research shows. When most women cheat physically, because there's also emotional cheating, when most women cheat physically, it's usually because they're not being satisfied in that relationship in some way. But for men, like you said, you guys can separate sex from actually like you could have sex with a female and not feel anything for that female. It's very rare for women to have sex with a male and not feel anything for him unless she's just there for the money. Which, you know, that's different.
Sometimes,
so I feel like that's why I never want to like compare the two and say like one is deeper than the other because they both have very devastating consequences. Because let's say if you do sexually cheat, what if you bring back STD? What if you bring back HIV? You know what I'm saying? And then it's on an emotional and a physical level. So it's a lot that goes into that. And I tell people all the time, if you feel like that you have to cheat, then there's a conversation that you need to have with your partner. Why are you feeling this way? And I know for some men, they're like, you know what, after being with their wife for 20 years, like, I'm just tired of the same vagina. I'm bored. I get it because I hear it all the time. But is it worth it in the end if your wife finds out?
Is it worth it, fellas?
True.
So is it worth it?
Think about it.
Is that 5 to 10 minutes? Some of y'all 2 minutes. Is it worth losing? Don't lie. Don't you be being real to Porch. You know what I mean? For that, is those 2 minutes worth losing your queen? That's a question you got to answer. So yeah. Now that's definitely deep, man. And another topic that again, doing our research that I know you've educated people on your IG page is self-pleasure and kind of using the vibrators, right? So first of all, do you think masturbation can actually be bad for people who are in couple or for couples, excuse me?
Yes. So there's pros and cons of masturbation. I don't know if I've done a con video of it. So the pros of masturbation is they actually can help with prostate cancer. Not eliminate it, but lower your chances of prostate cancer. You live longer. Cardiovascular.
Man, I mean, hold on real quick. The pros are pretty pro-ish right now. The pros are like,
pro-ish. It's some good pros. But what I will say is, is semen retention is great for men though, which is where you do not ejaculate and you don't masturbate, right? It shows that men are highly successful when they don't masturbate or have sex within 30 to 60 days. Like it really helps you guys focus. So as a man, if you want to get something done, don't masturbate or have sex for like 30 to 60 days and watch you accomplish whatever you're trying to accomplish.
Oh, are you serious?
So,
damn.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, like I've never heard that before.
Me neither.
Yeah, semen retention. It's called semen retention. And I'm telling you, it's of course going to be the struggle the first probably 10 to 15 days. But once you get over that hump, because it's almost like a drug addict, like you want sex. But once you get over that hump, there's so many different great benefits also to semen retention. Damn. So I always tell people you want to have a healthy balance, right? Because masturbation can be great when your wife goes on a trip with the girls and you just need to let off some steam. It helps some men go to sleep at night. I have clients that say, oh, I masturbate right before I go to bed and it knocks me out. So there's health benefits to doing both, actually. So I feel like throughout the year, a man should practice both and just have that balance. But where the downside is even though it does help men last longer before they have sex, no woman wants to be pounded for like 30 to 45 minutes an hour.
Facts.
So it's like, even though it takes us a while as women to naturally orgasm, once we got that orgasm out, we're good. We don't need to do more.
Facts.
Gotcha.
Damn.
Okay, that's a good point.
Man, Kevin Gates said something about semen retention. I thought he was capping.
Yeah.
He was like, man, my face, he said, I'm just more productive. I'm like, man, he talking.
He did say, because I heard the term semen retention. I never like really did a deep dive into what it is. So Bolo, hey, right now on the porch, can you commit to 30 days? Because we need to elevate. The porch needs to elevate.
That ain't just a me question. Now you know what I'm saying.
You better talk to your wife about that.
That's a
you the head of the household, brother.
I am, brother, but I mean, damn, that's a whole month.
Hey, wifey.
And if you're trying to get your wife pregnant, 30 to 60 days, you're gonna have a lot of buildup. So you'll be good to go.
Nope.
You know what? Like, that's gonna be, I ain't gonna lie though. After that 30, like that 31st day, when you finally do have sex, it's gonna be a very fast session, more than likely. It's gonna be wifey gonna be pissed.
Yeah, look it up. No, Kevin Tam he was correct. He was correct about semen retention. 30 to 60 days. Yeah, definitely look it up, do your research. Like I said, it has to be a healthy balance. I realize life is about duality. It's about having a healthy balance with anything.
Now for the women, I'm sorry, but real quick, for the women on the vibrator side and just the masturbation, are there any cons for the women's side, or is it the same thing for both men and women, or is it slightly different?
Yeah, so for women, there's a lot of health benefits to using to masturbating and using a vibrator as well. Excuse me, almost the same as with the men, except for the prostate stuff. Right. But a lot of times it does help as well with tightening of the vagina. Especially if she does like Kegel practices and things like that. So right after you have a baby, it's great for that. And then not only that, I mean, of course, the STDs, the STIs, you don't have to worry about that. And if you're in a relationship, it shows that 20 to 30% of couples that use toys together have a happier sex life. Because a lot of these sex toys that are out on the market are made for male and female, for both of you guys to find pleasure with. So I always tell, if you're looking to spice up your sex life and you're not sure where to begin, get like a little small bullet or something, just really tiny, nothing ginormous that's gonna scare somebody, but just something small and light to begin with, and then have fun with that in the bedroom. So yeah, there's definitely health benefits for women, and for women refraining from sex as well, there's health benefit.
Interesting.
Got you. Okay. Now, quick question before we move forward. People talk about like the G spot. I've heard some people say like there's no such thing as a G spot. A spot, like talk to us about like G spot, like A spot, if that isn't even a thing. I know some experts say it is. I've heard some people say it's not. Like, what's your expertise?
I never heard of A spot. I ain't gonna lie. I've heard of G spot. I never heard of A spot before.
I actually have a diagram. I don't know where my vagina is. I actually have this diagram of a vagina. It's somewhere in my apartment. But yeah, so there's the A spot, there's a C spot, there's a G spot, there's different spots. So this is the thing with the G spot in general. I've seen research that shows that it doesn't exist. I've seen research that shows that it does exist. Does it really matter though? Like, I do think that it exists. But the thing is know your woman's spot. Like, if you don't even know any spots, you're not going to find the G spot. And every woman's clitoris sits differently in her body, usually 2 to 3 inches back. But you can't even find that. So my whole thing is like, I feel like men sometimes wrap their minds too much around, I got to hit these different spots. Every woman is different. You have some women that have more shallow vaginas. So you have to focus so much more so on her pleasure and knowing where her spots are. Vibrators help with that. Your fingers are a great starting tool. But to answer your question, yes, I do believe that there is a G spot.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay.
Now you mentioned also about the A spot, and I did my homework, doctor. There was a podcast that you was on, I think like a year ago. I can't remember what the name of the show is.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yep, it was you. I think it was two other ladies on there. Y'all talking about the A spot. Now there was a move you mentioned called the windshield wiper. You say you do the windshield wiper, and that's how you hit the A spot. Now listen, you got this. The porch. We got to keep it real. Is there any way possible you can? I don't know what the windshield wiper is. I don't know if it's a finger move, a hand. Is there any way that you can kind of showcase the move, or at least verbally explain what the windshield wiper is for our listeners?
Yes. Yeah, you really did your research. That was a minute ago. Yeah, I was on the show Cocktails, I think is the name of it.
Shout out to them.
Dope show, yeah, with 2 individuals. But yeah, so the A spot sits at the top of the vagina. And I wish, oh my gosh, y'all, I wish I had my little vagina. You know what? If you give me 5 seconds, I can run and get it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm ready.
Take it. See, y'all, we on the porch, y'all. She about to go get an actual vagina. We about to go to school, vagina 101 right now. And it's about to be insane. Okay, Here we go, y'all.
Alrighty, so this actually shows the G spot. This is the G spot, right? So this is the opening of the vagina. You guys see the opening of the vagina. So as you see, the G spot does not sit that far back, right?
Right.
Like you can literally hit the G spot within about, I want to say, maybe about 2 inches. So your finger can hit the G spot.
Right.
Now the A spot sits at the top of the vagina between the cervix and the bladder. So if you put your finger straight up, you're going to hit the G spot. If you go up like this in the vagina and hit the windshield wiper, you're most likely going to hit the A spot. Yes. So you go up into the vagina, lean your hands forward, and you left, right, and you're going to hit that A spot.
Wow. Hey, listen, y'all. She dropping gems. That's free game on the porch. Breaking news. For the fellas, I know.
Fellas,
come on now. I know y'all not doing that move yet. Let's be real. I know we got pride. I know we got egos, fellas, but y'all ain't hitting the windshield wiper, man. Y'all can thank the porch for putting y'all on game. Thank you so much for doing that, doctor.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. I love it, man. The A spot. Hey, I knew it was gonna catch you off guard with that one.
Yes, you really did. You really did. I was like, oh, you really did your research with that one. Yeah.
Yes, I had to. So, no, love it. So, let me ask you this. We'll transition. Do you have any for the women now? Because we have a lot of women listeners as well. You talked about different toys, and if you're just now starting off, there's certain things, the smaller bullets and some lighter toys that you can start off with to kind of ease your way into it. But are there any like particular toys that just from your experiences or just from your research that you would recommend that ladies can use, or it just all depends on what you're into?
Say it really just depends what you're into. And I wish I had some of my vibrators ready, available. I would have brought them. I didn't realize we was gonna get this deep into it. But I will say, so I'm partnered with a company called V for Vibes. They're located in Miami. And the reason why I really like them is because their vibrators are very discreet. I think a lot of women, they don't want this big, gigantic 10-inch dildo, right? And so with this vibrator, it almost looks like a tiny wand. It's only a couple inches long. You can literally wear it as a necklace. If you go on my page, you'll find it. I've done work with them. And that's a great vibrator that I tell clients that they can get, because a lot of women, they just want that G spot or A spot stimulation, right? And they're not getting it because they feel like a lot of their partners think that they just want to thrust it in and just move in and out, which for some women works, but not for all women. And that's why I tell men, if you don't know, a lot of women rarely are able to orgasm just off of vaginal stimulation alone. We need a mixture of penis, tongue, we need it all. Intimacy, we need all that. On average, it takes about a woman anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes just to have an orgasm. So you have to be patient and remember that you have to build us up for us to get there. It's different for you guys. Usually you guys are just up and you're ready to go.
Get straight to it.
And get straight to it. But for women, you have to build that up.
Warm the pot.
You have to get us lubricated. So there's a lot of different dildos and stuff on the line, or just toys in general that have dual stimulation, where it'll hit her clit and go inside of her. Or you can turn it around and let it tickle her belly button and then let it hit her clit, and then you go inside of her, or you use your mouth and do what you do.
Got you. Okay.
Free game.
Okay. Free game right here, man.
Yeah,
No,
go
for sure.
to the sex store together. That's like the number one thing I'm always suggesting to my clients is to go to the sex store together and just have fun because they have a large selection of toys for people to choose from.
It's funny you said that. We had another sex therapist on. Shout out to our homegirl, Jennifer Smith, who said the same thing. She suggested like for couples to have like a date night at the sex store. You know what I'm saying? And kind of spending time. So nah,
Is she in
definitely.
Miami?
No, but remember she pulled up. She loved going to Miami though. She loved visiting Miami when she told us though.
So
Or
hold
she's
on.
in DC.
Yeah. You definitely know she
we
is.
follow each other. Okay, yep. I know
Yeah.
we follow each other.
I think she's from Pittsburgh, but she went to college in Miami.
Yeah.
But now she's like in DC. So yeah,
Yeah,
all those
she's
places.
really dope. She was on a show. I can't remember what show it was on, but she
on VH1.
Yeah. Yes, she's really dope. Yeah, small world. Yep, I sure do follow her. She's dope.
I love it.
Love
Shout out to her. Shout out to her, man. Now that's dope. That's dope. Bolo, one thing that now, my brain is cooking now, right? One thing that I'm thinking now of is the stat that you just threw out, doctor, about, how long it takes for a woman to reach an orgasm and how most women don't even reach orgasm through penetration. It's almost, it almost makes me like concerned, right? I guess for lack of better terms, that for women who are in relationships, right? They're seeking more pleasure from their toys than their men, their significant other. So now it's almost like is the men ain't even needed as much. Women out here making more money than men. They CEOs like yourself, and the toys are getting them to orgasm. The man can't do it. So now I feel like that is getting a little. I don't know. It just I don't even have a question.
I disagree. I feel like men and women will always need each other because at the end of the day, you can't talk to that toy. And if you do, then you need to come see me. You can't talk to the toy. That toy cannot wrap its arms around you and provide security or warmth. So, women still want men. They do. And men should still want women at the end of the day because no toy is going to provide that level of intimacy that most of us crave. Just as human beings, we all fundamentally want the same things and need the same things to survive. And you'll literally go crazy if you don't have human connection.
It's real.
Ain't that like a good ass hug, Bolo? You know what I mean?
Toy ain't got shit on me.
On a hug? Hey, they coming out with some crazy toys though. They got the bunny ears, the inside, outside. Like I don't know. So hey.
Yeah, I mean they didn't have toys for men, the dolls, the big blow-up dolls.
I be seeing that. That damn near kind of be freaking me out though. That's kind of
the doll kind of scaring me. But I did see something on it's called like the Guac 3000.
Yeah, it be the spinner.
Google it, doctor, if you ain't seen it.
Oh, I've seen it where it spins around the pen. Yeah, I've definitely seen it.
Yeah, so I mean, that's I ain't gonna
say
it
did look interesting.
It looked interesting. That's all I'm gonna say. That's a good word. There you go. It looked interesting. So
and you can use that with your partner.
There you go.
Back.
Come on now. What you looking at, Bolo?
I'm just thinking 15, 30 days sound like a long time. You know what I
mean? It is a long time. It is. But mentally, it gets you where you need to be after a while. That's the thing. Yeah, being mentally strong.
It can be worth it for sure. For sure. So yeah. So let me ask you this, Doc. And I kind of alluded to this earlier at the beginning of the show, but now folks are more on the sex therapy side. Again, your job, you talk to so many people every single day, every single week. And folks are specifically on the sex therapy side. Do you feel like it sometimes can like affect you from a personal standpoint in terms of like, listen, I've been talking about sex all damn week. I don't even feel like having sex. And again, I don't know if you're single, so that's not my business. I don't know your relationship status, but it's like sometimes you like, man, I don't even feel like hearing the word sex. Like, don't touch me. Like, I need to just, I need to relax.
No, I don't have that issue. No, I think that because you got to remember with the sex component, we don't immediately start with sex. When people come to me and they're like, you know what, I'm interested in sex therapy, I usually intertwine all of it, but I don't immediately start with sex. We start from your childhood, and we're starting with, is there any trauma? And then we'll get into the sex. That's typically like the last component. And it's one of the things I talk about in my guide. I have an ebook out for women. And it talks about that. We get into the dominatrix and the fun part, but we're going to talk about your mental health. We're going to talk about how to practice mindfulness. We're going to talk about how to stay away from fuckboys, how to ensure that you yourself are coming healed into a relationship. Because how can you see if someone else that doesn't have issues if you have all these things that you're working through yourself, right? And dating with intention. So I think for myself, because how I do my counseling, we don't immediately start with just like, okay, let's jump right into your sex life. So I'm not constantly talking about sex every day. I know everyone always thinks that, but it's not an everyday thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
Feel that.
Sounds good. I just have to ask that question because, like I said, I just know it's a job that just seems like just heavy. You know what I'm saying? Regardless.
It is.
Yeah.
So. It can definitely be heavy, but it's a lot of fun. I enjoy when you enjoy what you do. It doesn't really seem like you're working.
I love that. And you are a CEO. You a businesswoman, entrepreneur.
Boss.
So come on now. Like I love for real. I love it. I love people don't understand the power you have from again, this is our first time actually meeting, but just from the outside looking in and doing the research and seeing your hustle, your grind, how you kind of start like your own basic practice, and now you got your brand, Mind Body Sex. It's very inspirational for people like ourselves who we started our own podcast years ago and building up our brands. And even though it's not the exact same thing from an entrepreneur standpoint, it's similar. You're trying to build up a brand and grow your business, and I think it's really an inspiration to be able to see that. So
thank you. I appreciate you guys. And at the end of the day, you guys do an amazing job because I'm very careful about the type of podcast that I go on. So I did my research and I was looking at you guys. And I was like, all right, here's a podcast with some substance where people can actually learn from. And that's important. You got to have entertainment, but you actually want people to learn as well.
Yeah, a good balance.
Gotta have a good takeaways.
A good balance.
Yes, man. Absolutely. Good takeaway.
And I think that's perfect segue, Bolo, to kind of our final segment as we close out, which is our quick hitters. This is kind of just we end the show with like more lighthearted, fun questions here. So just got a few here, and then we'll let you go. So Bolo, you want to get it started with the quick hitters?
Absolutely. So obviously you are from DC. We know that, right? So talk to us about the best brunch spots in DC and why.
Ooh.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest, y'all. I've been living in Atlanta for a really, really long time. So I don't want my DC folks to attack me, even though I was just in DC for like 30 days working though.
Yeah.
Oh God, I don't even remember the spot that we went to. Lord have mercy.
Describe it.
Yeah, I'll have to skip that.
I feel that.
They're not about to come and attack me in DC. I usually go to Park Street on 14. Or 14th Park. Yeah, that's one of the places I like. But the last time I was home, I didn't even get a chance to. I went out to brunch twice, and I can't even think of the other place.
We had another guest on the show. It was Aisha.
Yeah, Aisha Marie. Yep.
Aisha Marie. She was like, look, DC, DMV, ain't nobody doing it like us. Ain't nobody going crazy like we going on the brunch side.
She's right.
I thought Houston was
Atlanta. We have dope brunch spots here, but it's all the same. Like it's the same vibe. So DC definitely does it differently.
Okay, DC. Okay. All right.
But I'm not good with names of places. So
okay, no, it's all good. I know we gotta put you on the spot there. So okay, second question. I consider you you're the doctor of sex, right? You know what I mean? Like literally. So we gotta ask you this from a woman's perspective. What makes good sex?
Ooh, that's a good question. So many different things. One, intimacy. Women love intimacy. I don't know how many. Intimacy is not sex, guys. Intimacy is when you're cuddling. Intimacy is massage. Intimacy is playing, listening music together. Intimacy is just being in each other's energy, being around each other, enjoying the ambiance of whatever you're doing. That's intimacy, having conversations. Women love that. They love deep conversations. We love guys that are romantic. And nowadays, I feel like romance is kind of taking a back seat to sex. So bringing that spark back, listening to music while you're having sex, listening to music while you're building intimacy, actually getting to know someone and feeling connected with them. It's easy to plan a date where you're just going to the movies or you're going out for drinks. Actually look and study her Instagram page. Or ladies, if you're taking him on a date, look and study his Instagram page. Get to know what he likes. If it's a sports team, buy him something with that. Like truly get back to the essence of knowing people. Women love that. We crave attention. We like words of affirmation. Some women like gifts, but it's always thoughtful if you bring flowers. So just being a gentleman. We like to be respected.
That's real.
I love it. Chivalry's still alive, fellas, man. Hold that
Absolutely.
door
Yeah.
open. Hold that door open.
All
It's all
day,
right.
every day.
Come on now. Get back to the old school ways, Bolo.
Let's get it. So next question. What is the biggest turnoff from a man?
Men that lie and don't know what they want in life, that don't have any ambition, that don't have any goals. Men that talk to multiple women and aren't honest about it. It's one thing if you're both single and you're like, hey, you know what? I'm dibbling, I'm dabbling, I'm dating this and that. I think the biggest turnoff for a lot of women and for myself is when men are honest about who they are. And they're talking to multiple women and they're trying to be players and every single girl's DM. Guys, we do not like thirsty men. We don't. It's a turn off.
They don't.
It's such a turn off when we find out that you in everybody's DM. Like,
put that cup down, fellas.
have some class about yourself, please.
Yeah. Man,
Be thirsty, y'all.
And this might be another episode, but that's the dangers of social media, right? You know, like that's something that like our parents and grandparents, they didn't have to go through that. You know what I'm saying? I think there's a lot of temptation right there on your phone. You know what I'm saying? One quick, like in the way Instagram work and these social media platforms work, they set up the algorithm, they set it up to where they show you exactly what you want to see. And this and you have to, you know what I'm saying? And you have to be strong as a man, a woman who, you know what I'm saying, like to just make sure, hey, if you're in a relationship, be loyal to that
algorithm. That's the thing, you can change it. If you look at more videos of kids or you know, babies because you're having a baby, or you know, Black Love page, Black Love Marriage page is like one of my favorite pages. Like, so you can change that algorithm. And I think the craziest thing is like when men don't have self-control over their penis. Like, it's such a turn, especially when you're 30 and over. Come on now, get it together.
That's a bar.
That's a fact.
You ain't got self-control of your penis, fellas. Turn off. All right, last one for you. And now this was a little spice. I'm gonna be real with you. This for the couples who are trying to spice up their relationships.
Okay.
What are the basic tips to ask your partner for a threesome?
Ooh.
Oh.
And I saw this on I think this is your Mind Body Sex page. I saw you. Yes, you did. You educated yourself.
I talk about this on my Mind Body Sex page for sure. First of all, you have to make sure that that's what your partner wants, right? And this goes for male or females. I think people have to learn to read their partner and know their partner. If you're watching, what I always say to test the waters, because a lot of people be like, I don't know. I'll say test the waters by watching a porn together. And let's say a threesome's in the porn. And if she's like, or Paul's like, I don't want to watch this, then you know, she probably might not be into threesomes. But open up for a conversation. Play a game. There's a lot of card games that they have online or in sex stores where it talks about like, you have a checklist of I even have a checklist that I send out to couples of things that you like to do. And then you exchange it and it's like, yes, no, maybe. And then see what she checks on there. And if she says no, you can still say, you know what? Have you ever thought about a threesome? Like, would you ever have one, or you don't want to share me? But tread very lightly, because there are some women that feel very strongly about threesomes. And if you get to a point where she's like, you know what, I'm down to have a threesome. Okay, great. So then you want to go into who you're going to have a threesome with, which is a totally different conversation. But I think, you know, the questions you want to ask to see if she's interested is not more so about questions. You want to read body language and see the actions. So if you put on that porn and she's tense or she's like not comfortable, you know she's probably not into it. And you can say, does this make you uncomfortable? Would you ever have a threesome? Or this isn't something you're into?
Got you.
But you know your partner. You know, men know what their partner might say yes or no to.
We be knowing, fellas. We be knowing.
Yeah, you do. You know if your wife is or partner is going to be into that or not.
Sometimes, these fellas still be trying to shoot their shot though, and they be bricking. They be bricking off the backboard, but they be trying to shoot though.
And that's why I say just tread lightly. just ask her. Now, being at the club, or if you see another girl and you're like, oh, I want to have a threesome with that. That is not.
Yeah, that ain't gonna work.
Flag on the play.
That's bad.
Hell no.
It's bad for business.
I would even suggest, even if you get to the point, like you said, that she wants to do it, let her pick. Like, let her pick the third. You know what I mean? Like, stay out of that. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that's
safe. That's safe.
That's some free game, Doc. So, man, this has been a fun episode. We learned a lot. I think our Porch family, definitely learned a lot. And we appreciate you for hopping on. We want to give you the chance to, like, if there's anything you want to shout out or just let people know where they can find you online, this is your time to kind of do that.
Absolutely. So you can find me for my personal page. I talk about mental health and a little bit of sexual health on my personal page. It is Dr. Canary, Dr.Canary. And then if you're really interested in mental health, sexual health, there's my business page, which is mind.body.sex. If you're interested in scheduling a consultation, my website is drmbs.com.
There it
Love
is.
it.
There it is, man. Thank you so much for hopping on.
Blessings.
This has been a blessing, Bolo. You know what I'm saying? Yes. Cannot wait to everybody to hear this, Bolo.
Absolutely. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Send us some props. Shout out to Caffeine. We are on YouTube. We on Spotify. We on Apple Music. No excuse to show us some love. And you can show somebody else some love. So before we get out of here, in order to have the best sex, you got to make sure the best you
is the best you. And we out. Peace.
Started on the porch, that was where it all began. Had to put in work, every day we got it in. We chased all our dreams and now they can't believe it. We make it look easy, we achieving everything we needed. Now we undefeated. If we link, no it's only business. If we get to speak and leave them speechless. I did things for free but now it costs to see me. When you see me, you ain't gotta greet me. Just don't plot to sneak me, I'ma see it. I'ma stop and watch you lose and get defeated. What do we bleed? Came from the jungle, we humble but hungry and hunting to feed. People don't want us to leave. They love us and rush to the bus when we run in the streets, thinking we stunning the sea. We came from nothing to something, now up in the lead. Now we ain't coming in peace, hunting for blood and to crush everyone in the league. We got a reason, we put in work every day of the week, every month, every season. So many schemes, had to go hard for the team. We gave our all and succeeded, came from the deep end. Warming up pots, cooking ramen at times, that was all we was eating. Now we be feasting, 5-star restaurants every week. Whole team dripping cloth and it's seamless. They looking hard when we step on the scene. Call us outcasts, we so fresh and so clean. Ain't about cash, please don't ask for a meeting. Just hit the stoop out the spaz on the beat. Nah, it ain't rude if you ask for the feet. Just play it cool when I tax you the fee. We need a pool in the back with a cord and a board that gon' jump off and splash for the heat. Live for the day cause the past can determine the future or where you gon' actually be. Keep staying present, our presence a blessing. It's all that we have and we actually need. I'm taking action with passion, detaching the ones who keep acting attached to leech. I am no pastor but actually preaching. Look up these lyrics and actually read. That was where it all began. Had to put in work, every day we got it in. We chased all our dreams and now they can't believe it. We make it look easy, we achieving everything we